Hello and welcome to our first video podcast on SAP on Azure. My name is Holger Bruchelt, and together with my colleagues Robert Boban and Goran Kondric, we want to give you a regular update on anything new in the SAP and Microsoft space. Before we go into details, let's quickly make a round of introduction. Robert.
Okay, so hi from my side, Robert Boban, as Holger mentioned, cloud solution architect in one commercial partner organization, now around 3 years in Microsoft, before a long time with SAP, and of course now my main topic in Microsoft is SAP on Azure. So Goran.
So that was the Dr. Rob, so-called, doctor for SAP on Azure, yeah. So my name is Goran Kondric. I think 4 or 5 years in Microsoft. SAP on Azure, was working in Waldorf before, since 2000. So really a long 20 years experience with SAP. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm Holger. I'm also with Microsoft. I also joined Microsoft like 3 years ago, and now I'm working in the product management for SAP architecture. And similar like Robert and Goran, I was working over 10 years in different roles at SAP. And as you can see, so the three of us have really a strong background in SAP and working in different areas now in Microsoft. So what we have done and what we'll also want to do in the next calls is that we are looking and we're discovering anything that seems interested in the SAP and Microsoft space. So we know there are a lot of dedicated channels for SAP available, dedicated channels for Microsoft available, but nothing that is really about SAP and Microsoft. So what we want to focus on is exactly that. In our video podcast, we want to take a look at things that are interested for the SAP and Microsoft ecosystem. So for the list of topics for our call today we will talk about new virtual machine types that are available and that are very interested for the SAP environment. We'll talk about bursting and shared disk functionalities. Maybe we'll also talk about the Azure Monitor for SAP Hana that was recently released. We'll talk about principal propagation, and we'll round it off with a quick outlook for next week for the Inspire event. So let's get started. Goran, I think you had something with the new virtual machine types that we want to talk about.
Yeah, so maybe let me just share my screen, because life would be easier with a share screening. Let's use the power of Teams, for such stuff. Okay. So I'm just sharing the screen. Tell me when you see.
Yeah, it's there.
Actually, it's the LinkedIn part. Interesting is that we got 2 types certified, and we talk about the EV4 series. And one interesting part that we can use it, here is, I just listed basically that we can use it for HANA, So typically you would, in the past, you are using the M series, which are quite huge and quite big, but the customer are also asking about the smaller type. And those VMs are also, of course, cheaper, because they're also smaller. And nice stuff is they are very fast. So basically, they are based on the new Cascade Lake processor. Mm. So very convenient for also smaller HANA system, cost optimized and also fast. And another part is also that these E series, but also the DV4 series, are generally certified for SAP. NetWeaver, meaning for any database, and for the app server layer as well. Again, very interesting part that we did some calculation that we have the top subs performance per virtual CPU. I think it's the best in the industry. So customer are warmly welcome to try it, and also I would say let's motivate them to use the newer VM type.
So what you have on the top when you scroll up, I think you just make mistake with the original announcement. We make mistake with you just copy paste, because this first machine is not 192, it's 160.
Okay.
That was a copy paste mistake.
Yeah.
I also did that, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Cool. But so with this, we're really also leveraging the entry layer basically of certified HANA machines, right? So
Exactly.
that I mean, we scale up to, I don't know, 12 terabytes in the meantime on virtual machines only. But now also for if you just want to install a smaller HANA instance, then we can now also use these
exactly. So lower the entry, and still give the good performance on a compute side.
And I think performance on the compute side is a good point, because it's not only compute, but also obviously storage, I think, is another very interesting topic that we have. And I think there also in the area of storage, we have some interesting news with the bursting functionalities that is now available.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is just one small look on those, what Goran mentioned, certificate machine. This is from SAP Hana directory, where we can see all those machines are really certificate and approved from SAP perspective. But what you mentioned is, I mean, this is our standard link from HANA Azure Virtual Machine Storage configurations. And if you scroll down, we provide all those information, best practices inside, but it was always big table with our recommendation. And now this big table is modified with very small disk, which is from throughput perspective is actually not acceptable if we ignore this bursting mechanism. So what is about this bursting is now that we have all disks which are below P30, so below 1 terabyte, all those disks have so-called bursting functionality. So as you can see here, those provision IOPS and provision throughput is very small for those disks. Yeah, so are not satisfied requirements, for example, for HANA. But we have the bursting option, and then throughput is going to 170, and IOPS are going very high. So we'll try 3,500. So how this bursting is works? So you actually you are getting 30 minutes per day of this bursting functionality. So which means that you can when this happen automatically, you cannot enable or disable. This happen automatically. It's free. You don't need to pay anything. And the advantage is that, for example, you are booting virtual machines or you are starting your HANA. Yeah. Then you need more power, and then the system will detect that you actually on the limits, and he will give you this bursting option. Then you can actually start your virtual machine much faster together with HANA. Yeah? And then there's also we adopt that. Then this disk, as you see, this P6 are very small disk, and if you take for HANA data, where the requirements are around 400 megabit per second, with bursting option we have 680. And for log disk, we are also using the same. So we are using very small disk for log disk, and we are now reaching to 510 megabits per second in a bursting option. So this is from scalability perspective is a nice presentation of the future of the cloud. Where you everything have modified automatically, so to say. And on the other side, we are actually this is a huge potential for saving, because those small disks are much cheaper than big one. Yeah.
I think, I mean, obviously, we had in the past these storage recommendations, and I think they're still available in case you cannot or don't want to use the bursting functionalities.
Exactly.
Where we outline what are the required disks layouts so that we reach the required throughput and IOPS requirements for a HANA system. And now with this bursting, I think we have a very interesting alternative that we can offer the customers.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, we need to be very careful with this suggestion. Also, is not that one scenario fits to all. Of course, yeah, we need to be sure. Is this, for example, good enough that we for 2 terabyte system we have enough 30 minutes time to start up operating system? Depends on scenario, as always. Yeah, but I think it's very good option to go with and just test if it's okay, because there's a huge potential for saving.
Yep.
And it's also a very nice, from my perspective, very nice example. What is the advantage of the cloud? Right?
And I would say it's additional value for the cheap premium disk, which typically such of bursting you or added performance you have an ultra disk. But for the for the premium disk, which are cheaper, this is really an added value for the same price. so to say. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I mean, you know, that storage, I think it's just very important, because now we just announced something much more important about shared disk. And I know, Goran, this is your favorite topic, because you did some very nice testing around that. So I think you want to share something for us.
So it would be about the shared disk, right?
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Give me a second. So let me just quickly also share my screen. Screen 1, yeah. So this is, do you see?
Yeah, we have it.
Okay, so this was a blog announcement in February about the preview of the Azure Shared Disk.
Can you a little bit zoom in? Just zoom in.
Yeah,
it's too small.
Yeah, sure. So we have some nice picture, basically. So the Windows storage team, it's offered, this was a preview version of shared disk functionality, which can be used either for Windows failover cluster, but also for the pacemaker Linux cluster on premium and ultra disk. And basically, I believe just when was yesterday, we announced an GA of this feature. This is the blog. Now, interesting point is also, what does this mean for the SAP, so to say? So maybe this is a bit exclusive. It's not yet officially out published, but it's kind of coming. So the idea is what you can very fast expect to get is support of this feature for the Windows failover cluster, which is a kind of very popular option in the Azure as well. This will basically work in this version with the availability set, meaning a regional deployment. With Windows failover cluster, you have those two options, shared disk or file shared. So this would be a shared disk option. And shared disk is basically just a disk in the Azure, which is extremely easy to create, just like any other disk, so to say, and just attach to that VM, and you just run SAP installer, and out of the box you get a highly available ASCS cluster with SAP MNT file share. That would look, for example, that would work as well on the with the let's say new Anchor replication server, for example, and also it will work everything in a multi-SID environment. So my perspective is, the great value, it's extremely simple. It's really simple. So clustering is always something which is considered as a complex thing, and sometimes because of this complexity, that high availability could become a low availability, you know. So customer always look for opportunity to simplify such a HA setups, which are important for the business productive SAP system. So I would say simplicity, and I would also currently it would be on a premium storage for the SAP. It would be also cheap solution. You need just a 2 VM. So I mean, I would say let's discuss maybe in some of our next call when this is officially from SAP side published, and we say okay,
can you just share that page where from announcement perspective, I think nobody noticed that. If you just go to that page, scroll a little bit down.
Okay.
Down. Stop. Do you see here that we improve SLA from our virtual machines with standard disk now? Now we have SLA single instance SLA with standard SSD and also with HD. So we have 99.5% with VMs single instance SLA with standard SSD, and also with standard HDD we have 95% single instance SLA. This is very nice.
Oh, that's actually interesting, Robert. I hadn't noticed this as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, take a look, small letters.
That's really cool.
Sure, for SAP we use premium just to be on the safe side with the performance or the good performance. But that's interesting fact. Yeah, things are getting better.
You're absolutely right. I think with the whole shared disk concept, we should definitely spend some more time, maybe in our next call on this, just to take a closer look at this, because I think this can be really valuable and simplify and change the architecture, probably the recommended architecture when it comes to an SAP setup.
Cool.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, cool.
Great. one other topic, Azure Monitor for SAP solutions. So maybe let me quickly share my screen. So just this week, we announced a new offering in preview right now for SAP solutions that talks about how you can actually use Azure Monitor to natively monitor SAP solutions. And let me scroll down here. So the idea is really that if you have an SAP system now running in Azure with a HANA database, that you can really collect additional log telemetry information and make them also available in Azure Monitor. Actually, there's also a beautiful video with Scott Hanselman on Azure Friday where they talk about this solution and where they also demo. So you can really see this, how this works in real life. So I think that's also a really interesting new addition to the services and functions that are available on Azure right now.
And it's also the SQL Server, right?
And Pacemaker. So.
Pacemaker,
sorry.
That's
Pacemaker.
right. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. That we also monitor a Pacemaker, the cluster, which obviously is very often used in SAP setup. So yeah. So HANA, SQL, and Pacemaker. So I think that's a really good starting point what we have there.
Yeah. Sure.
Good. Then let's quickly go to the next point. There is a very interesting blog post that was just released also today by Martin Repple. So one of our other Microsoft colleagues that joined us from SAP, and it's about principal propagation between Microsoft Azure and SAP Cloud Platform. And I really love the blog that he wrote there. So it's all about you have an application running on Azure authenticated against Azure Active Directory, and how can we, from this application, connect and consume services on the SAP Cloud Platform? And Martin spent a lot of time there investigating and then also creating this blog, because it's, I would really say it's a tutorial, similar like in TechEd sessions. So you really have a step-by-step guide how to get started with lots of screenshots to really create these scenarios. And I think this is a very common scenario when we talk about integration, about interoperability, about connecting Microsoft applications with SAP. So I can highly recommend to check out this blog here. It's really.
So I haven't read this blog. So interesting. Also, it's useful to be part of this conversation to learn about it. But I guess, I mean, the idea is also to have seamless single sign-on integration across the Microsoft AD and as well as the SAP authentication. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
OAuth based, but you know how it is. You need to exchange some certificates. You need to copy and paste URLs, redirect URLs, and it can be a little complicated. And I think Martin did a really good job there, highlighting.
Yeah. All integrations are always starting from this identity management synchronization first, and then you start with real integration with some different services. Yeah,
exactly.
Because this is the main part.
Yeah.
Yeah, great, super.
Good. So, we said that we want to keep these sessions very short. So maybe one last point that I quickly want to mention, since it is already next week. So for all the partners, typically there is the Microsoft Inspire event, which is typically once a year in Las Vegas, I think. This year, obviously, because of COVID-19, it's not an on-site event, it's a remote event. But this also means that, anyone can register, basically. So if you are interested in this, if you are a partner, go to partner.microsoft.com and register here for Microsoft Inspire. I think you still can register. And I think next week, we will have some very interesting sessions from the Microsoft Corp team and the OCP, the One Commercial partner organization, to really talk about some cool new things in Microsoft.
Yeah, this is very important for all of our partners. This is actually the biggest conference from our side when we are talking with our partners. And I recommend really that all partners join. And now it's an opportunity, because before partner need to travel to Vegas. Yeah, it's good or bad. This is another discussion. But I mean, now we have a chance that we join all together online and then share our knowledge and learn something new.
Cool. Good. I think with this, again, this was our very first time, our very first video podcast. Let's see. Let us know what you think. Let us know if there are some topics that you are interested in. I think we already have something for next week. Maybe we can also recap what happened at Inspire. I'm looking for a deeper dive from Goran on the whole shared disk topics.
For me. Then
hopefully we'll hear each other again next week.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.